In this question, submitted to www.free-academy.com, the question is, what is the period of the absolute value of sine of x plus the absolute value of cosine of x divided by the absolute value of sine of x minus cosine of x plus the absolute value of sine of x plus cosine of x, or what I like to call it, the convoluted trig method. Analytically, what I can tell you is that if you take something with one period, add it to something else of a different period, divide it by something else of a different period, and perform those different operations on it, you're going to get something of a different period. How exactly that goes together, I don't know of a direct means of calculating that. I think that that's a little bit more dependent. They end up calling it a wave pack, and I do know that. But anyways, what I can tell you here about this equation is that your top and your bottom are both going to have the same period, which means this is going to end up having the same period. And let me show you to this graphically. We all know that sine of x has a period of 2 pi. One trough to one trough, 2 pi. Now when we take the absolute value of sine of x, our negative axis reflects over the x-axis, and what we find is only a pi interval from peak to peak. Let me pull those off there. And now I'm going to do the absolute value of sine of x, right here, and the absolute value of cosine of x. Now there's going to be something different here. When we're at our interval of pi over 2, we have a 0 added to the interval of 1. 0 plus 1 is going to equal 1. When we go to pi over 4, we're going to have approximately 0.707 added to 0.707, which should give 1.4. We never have anything below the x-axis, anything in the negative range to do destructive interference on these waves. So when you put the absolute value of sine of x and add it to the absolute value of cosine of x, you're going to get another wave that's going to have half of its interval. Again, because there's no destructive interference to beat down these peaks, basically. Now the same thing is going to happen in the bottom of the equation, where we have an absolute value of minus sine of x, an absolute value of plus cosine of x. When we put those two together, we're going to get something else as an interval of pi over 2. Now you can see here that this interval is phase shifted compared to the top, but that doesn't matter. The phase shifting isn't going to affect what your period is. And once we put the whole equation together, we get something that has an interval of pi over 2. Now how you would go about calculating this out with algebra or analytically, I can't really give you any great advice on that. Fortunately, using a graphing calculator works pretty well for solving these kind of equations, so that's what I would recommend. Hopefully this was helpful for you guys. Please send us more questions. We love getting them.